Welcome, level uppers, to another live reaction time. I am one of your co-hosts for tonight's Andrew Midori, alongside the classy douchebag Mike McLaughlin. How you doing, Mike?
Good. I'm great.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
We just
Perfect.
got done an hour of audio testing.
And it sounds amazing.
It
does
sounds
not.
better, that's for sure.
It sounds better. It was an improvement that unfortunately didn't need to be done, but was done anyway.
Yeah, it was necessary because of our dual streaming, which sucks, but that's the case for now. Hopefully someday we'll be able to do only on PC, which is where it looks great for you guys watching right now on PC and on YouTube and whatnot. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe if you're watching from YouTube. This is our weekly discussion of your and our favorite TV shows. We do Flash, we do Arrow, we did The Walking Dead and Better Call Saul, but now we're doing Game of Thrones.
Although this one is a little bit late than normal. Usually we'll try to do this Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
We kind of fell behind this week.
I had a very busy week, so hopefully
Yes,
next
we
week will
both
be a
did.
little easier. We'll
Right.
try and get it on Monday or Tuesday, as Mike said. This was Season 5, Episode 2, and right off the bat, I have to say, I think that this was a better episode than the premiere.
Oh, absolutely. This one was, we actually said right afterwards, like, this was the intensity and the intrigue that we wanted to get out of the first episode. And they kind of just let it drag a little bit in the first one, but this one kind of picked it up where the first one let off a little
Sure,
bit.
yeah. I also want to welcome our current viewers. We got 15 people in the room watching from PS4. You can go over to PC at the Level Up Network if you want to see the higher quality stream. But thank you for joining us, Farsender, Ghost, Diddyim Havoc, Dustin, and many more. You guys are awesome. Don't forget to follow the show. Hit that heart button. Mike, I'm going to let you take the reins on this one. You've got the synopsis in front of you.
Absolutely.
Go ahead. How did this episode start?
So, if I remember right, Arya was the star of this season. We saw her on the boat, finally making her stop. I can't remember where it was that she was actually going to. Do you remember by any chance what it was at?
Well, she's going to Bravos.
Bravos. That's where she's going to. So she makes her way to Bravos, and the captain, who I guess she made friends with, or one of the sailors that she made friends with, helps her out, gets her to this building, and it just has a black and white door on it. And he said, "This is where you are." And she thanks him; he's on his way. And she goes up to it, and she's kind of not met with the greeting that she was expecting.
No, not at all. I mean, she was expecting to get there, display the coin, and be welcomed in. And I think she was also possibly thinking that she might see Jaqen H'ghar again, the person that gave her the coin in the first place, the face shifter from, I think, Season 2? It's been a while since we've seen him.
Yeah, was it Season 2? It was either 2 or 3. I think it was Season 3, because I think it was just one season we haven't seen him from.
Yeah, I think it was 3, because that was when she was held in captivity and they were torturing all the people, and then she needed Jaqen's help to get out, and he like kills all the guards out of nowhere.
Right.
And she walks out of the prison, like nothing ever happened, which was a really cool scene.
Right, and he changes his face on her, and it was really awesome. It was Jaqen H'ghar, who is what she's looking for. The faceless man with the Jaqen. Right. But she goes up and she goes to the door and essentially knocks and is waiting and waiting and waiting, and nothing happens. And then the guy answers the door, and it's not who she was expecting at all.
No.
She was looking for Jaqen H'ghar, she says, and there's no one there by that name, this and that. And she essentially gets turned away, and feeling defeated, she tosses that awesome coin into the water.
Which kind of made me upset for a moment there. I was like, why would you do that? That coin is really probably very valuable.
Right, I was thinking, like, at the very least, just hold on to it. I mean, I get you're frustrated, and she is only 10 years old, so they do act erratically. But it was just really not what I was expecting.
No. But she does, before she gets rid of the coin, she is literally sitting outside saying the names over and over again.
Right, I forgot about that.
For like a whole night straight. She goes through Joffrey. Not Joffrey, no longer Joffrey, actually. She removed that name from her list because she did find out that Joffrey has been murdered. But she still says Cersei, Ilan Payne, the Mountain, and maybe one more. I can't. That's the thing, is her list is getting smaller. Right,
it's getting smaller, but there's somebody on there that I can't remember now. And I just can't remember who the name was. But yeah, you're right. It is smaller. So you're right. She does that. She waits overnight, and then she gets frustrated with waiting and ends up tossing it in the water and moves on. But that's kind of the end of that part. Right from there, it actually kind of changes around, and that awkward, almost coincidental bypassing of Brienne and Littlefinger and Sansa gets even more convenient in the next.
Yeah, does that bother you at all? The convenience of them finding each other in this inn?
No, not at all. Actually, this makes the last episode better. because I hate unneeded convenience. If it's a comedy, that's one thing. You're kind of using it for comedic, needs, I guess you can say. But when you just do it in a drama like this, it's not needed. It's meant to be like, oh, you're so close, and feel a
Yeah.
little disparaging. But in this case, it kind of makes sense. They need to find a way for them to meet up. And with Littlefinger and Sansa on the road, going to somewhere where Brienne probably wouldn't think to look, it wouldn't really have worked well any other way. So this is just as good as you're going to get with it. But it was way more interesting of a connection than I anticipated. I was not expecting there to be such resilience.
Yeah, that's the thing is, I feel bad for Brienne because she's trying so hard to save these Stark girls. She's trying to fulfill this promise to Kat, but nobody wants her.
Well,
and it's kind of disappointing to see. But you can understand why Sansa would be this way.
Right. I mean, so what's interesting about the scene is she says to her squire, when he's actually the one that notices her and points her out, and she has this look in her face, and she says, "Ray the horses." And he looks at her like, "We don't have horses," and he says it to her, and she's like, "Find some." She knows that it's going to be an issue because she is with Littlefinger, who she was not anticipating her being with. But she makes her way over there. The knights give her a problem. And immediately off the bat, Littlefinger gives her an attitude. Sansa really hasn't said anything to her at all yet.
He gives her an attitude in that Littlefinger way where he's being all proper and kind, but you can tell like behind that all is something.
But he's also
dangerous.
being demeaning. He was saying, if you were, supposed to be protecting, Catelyn and whoever else, you didn't really do a good job. Why should Sansa feel comfortable going with you? What's interesting to me is that he didn't even bother saying she's welcome to come with them. I get that he might not trust her, but if she's going to be this, belligerent, does he really? I don't know. It's just a very
odd. The thing is, she's not supposed to be a sellsword, but she's carrying around this Lannister sword, which makes her look like she's bought out by the Lannisters.
Right.
She failed to protect Renly. She failed to protect Kat. She hasn't found Arya. So she all around pretty much looks like a failure. Although we know, watching the show, that she's not that. It's just that
really
things haven't worked out for her.
Right. She has really bad luck with it, but she's actually probably one of the most badass characters on the show.
Definitely, 100%. I love Brienne. And that's what's interesting is this is so much different than the books, everything I've heard with Brienne, and especially this scene. This never happens in the books. And some people have an issue with this scene because Sansa is wanted for murder right now. Tyrion is taking most of the rap for killing Joffrey, but Sansa is also wanted as well. They still have this thing where people think that they were collaborating in the poisoning of Joffrey. So for Brienne to go over there and announce that Sansa was there, like that's something that Brienne wouldn't have done, I would think. She would try to keep this kind of small and quiet because Sansa's in danger. Anybody that finds out that she is Sansa might try to bring her back to the Lannisters.
You're right.
So this was bit of a weird scene here. That Brienne wasn't trying to hide that.
Yeah, that could be that reason why he was so resilient against her, and why she was so against it too, because she actually does chime in, and she said, I don't want to go anywhere with you, and essentially, telling her to go on her way. But it ends up turning out much more violent than I felt it needed to.
Becomes an escape.
He essentially says something like, why don't you stay? And it's kind of like one of those weird things where you can tell there's a motive behind it, and the knights get prepared. Well, brawl scene in the inn. She ends up running out the door. The squire does find horses. They go on their way. Ride off. Well, along the way, as they're being chased, of course, the squire, the convenient, way that it was, he goes on the wrong path. He doesn't know how to ride a horse very well, and
this wasn't his horse, so I'm assuming that he's not a bad horse rider. It's just that this wasn't his horse, so it gave him problems.
I think it was that he's not a very good horseback rider.
No, maybe not.
I think that was actually a thing that they said about that brought up at one point. But regardless, Podrick ends up going on his own way. By the way, Podrick was his name.
I love Pod. I've always loved Pod. He was very loyal to Tyrion, and now he's loyal to Brienne as well, and he saved Tyrion. I remember in season 2 where, the guy tries to cut Tyrion down on the face, and then Pod comes in from behind and spears him. So Pod is a trustworthy squire, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. But, so they have the fight. So Pod ends up going down on his path, and Brienne ends up seeing a, what would you call it? Like not a motorcade. I'm trying to think of a caravan.
He sees them leaving. He sees Sansa and I think Littlefinger
No,
leaving
Brienne
down the
does.
path.
Brienne sees Sansa and Littlefinger leaving. However,
Yeah,
Pod is getting attacked by the Redcoats. He ends up falling
yeah.
off his horse. Brienne comes in, saves the day, kills a couple of them, and they go off after Sansa and Littlefinger. So that's kind of the end of Brienne for right now. That's all we know about her, because I don't think we ever go back to her, do we? I think that was it for the rest of the.
I think it might be, yeah. After that, we move on to a scene with Cersei and Jaime where they open up a package which seems to be a threat from Dorne, where Cersei's daughter is currently not being held captive,
Right.
but is sworn to marry one of the Dorne princes.
Yeah.
So it seems like since Oberyn died last season, maybe Dorne is upset, maybe they're sending threats, but there's kind of a weird inconsistency here, and it's intentional. It's not like a problem with the show, but when we do flash forward to Dorne after that, it doesn't seem like the king, Oberyn's brother, has any harsh feelings and doesn't seem to want to take action.
No, it's interesting because I actually respect, in a way, his approach to the whole situation.
Yeah.
Way too many people in general, not only just in the show, but in general, people in general are very hot-headed when it comes to issues like this, when it comes to death and stuff. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I get it, emotions running high, but he seems actually like a very respectable ruler.
Yeah, I
he's
agree.
very calm and collected, and he recognizes, you can tell he's upset and distraught by it, and I feel like he even wants to do something, but he's already realized that there's nothing he can do because his brother went over there and caused problems and got himself killed. It was a combat situation. It wasn't like he, just randomly got murdered in the middle of the night. At that point, I'm sure there would have been something that would happen. But
it was a trial to the death. He took part in it. But that's the thing here is I don't think there's two possibilities here. It wasn't the king who sent this threat. If it was anybody, it was Ilya, the lover of Oberyn. There's a possibility she seems like the Cersei of Dorne in a way, so maybe she sent this threat. But the other possibility is Cersei is playing this whole thing up herself, and she created the threat to force Jaime to go get the daughter back.
Yes.
Do you think that's a possibility, that this entire thing is all fake and it was all Cersei making it up?
You know what? I don't know at this point if I can't tell her issue. I can't tell if she's playing up the emotion or actually emotional.
She wants her daughter back. That's for sure. That's her one redeeming quality. We talk about that all the time.
But yeah, exactly. She has a undying love for children. But the problem is I can't actually tell with the character because I haven't really shown it either way. I'm not really sure if she's really just saying these things because that's how she feels, or if she actually has ulterior motives like many times she does.
I think she legitimately wants her daughter back, and I think that she saw a way to do it, to kind of force Jaime's hand in this regard, and I think that she felt a threat from Dorne would be the thing to do it. And she doesn't want to, I don't think she wants to create a war per se, but to have Jaime go by himself or with what's his name, Bronn. They bring back Bronn in the next scene. It turns out that Jaime is not going to go by himself. He does go to find Bronn. And to go with him, which is awesome. I'm glad that they brought that character back.
We did skip a little bit because before we actually went over overseas and everything, we actually had a scene after Jaime leaves where Cersei goes to the council and places.
I don't think that's happened yet. Actually, that's a little later. Right after the scene with Cersei and Jaime, it does go to Bronn. Right after that, immediately. I have it on the screen right now, actually. And Bronn was supposed to marry somebody. He leaves Tyrion because he was given a castle and all this kind of stuff. And that's the way his story ends in the book. You never see Bronn again.
Right.
But the creators of the show know how much we love Bronn.
Right.
And they're like, we got to bring this guy back. So that's why they're doing this. They actually brought him back for the show. They made it so Jaime is going to use him to go to Dorne together.
And that's perfect. He's like that badass character. I mean, he's a sellsword. He's a hired gun. So he's notorious. They're not notorious for having loyalty, but I feel like he does actually have some loyalty to a few people in the show. He respects Tyrion. He respects Jaime. In this scene when we see him and the simple-minded woman that he's with.
Yeah, they do that often in the show when it's supposed to be like a kind of homely, not so attractive, maybe inbred. I don't know exactly, but you see this every now and then on the show.
Yeah, it was interesting, but you could tell obviously he was not into her. He just wanted the kingdom.
Yeah.
And Jaime comes up and ends up talking to him. He sends her on her way, and Jaime, asks him to join him, being a little more vague than he wanted. However, when he was promised a better maiden and a better kingdom, it definitely got his attention, and it seems like they're going to be teaming up and going overseas, which is going to be awesome. I think that's going to be some of my favorite parts of
Yeah.
season 5.
I love Braun, and Braun and Jamie together is really cool as well. They trained last season when Jamie lost his hand. Braun helped him to get his skills back. But not just, I just wanted to say real quick, how awesome did Jamie look in that scene? His red jacket, like tattered jacket, he looks badass. I really like that costume.
I'm enjoying Jamie more and more as the show goes on. He's my favorite character. I mean, that's between him and Tyrion. That's why I'm wearing this.
Yeah,
I'm gonna rock
the
this.
Lannisters.
Absolutely.
No, I do like Jamie. Jamie's an interesting character because of that turnaround. He's somebody that in that first 2 seasons, you never would have guessed that he's a character you would come to actually like. Absolutely. And they've kind of done that. They've definitely made a switcheroo with that character. I enjoy it, for sure.
So I'm actually getting a little confused because the outline that I was looking at had it go, like I said, to the next scene. So what technically was the next scene then?
Right after that, we do get to see Dorne for the first time. We meet the brother, and we see Ilya again. She really wants to get revenge. She talks about tearing Cersei's daughter apart and sending her back piece by piece at one point. So she is harsh. She's a brutal woman, and she really wants her revenge.
Right, and we were trying to figure out the brother's name.
I can't think of his name. I'm not sure exactly. But as you said, he seems like a respectable person. And every time we've heard about Dorne through the show, we do hear that it is a place where women are treated with respect. It's one of the few places in this world where women aren't treated like garbage. So it's actually a safe place for Cersei's daughter to be in some ways if it weren't for Ilya.
Yeah, and who is it? And that's, I guess, what we see his wife. Is that who it's supposed to be?
I don't know if it's his wife, if it was Oberyn's wife or his lover. It seemed like more a lover, because Oberyn was like bisexual. He was having sex with guys and girls, but clearly they cared about each other, and she clearly has enough feelings that she wants this revenge.
But they end up getting in a fight, and there's nothing really quotable from this, meetup, except for the ending. They're going back and forth, and like I said, he's very mild-tempered with it. She's like, go over there, start a war, avenge your brother. He said, what would you like me to do? He chose to do this and that. And he essentially says at one point, as long as I am ruler of this, kingdom, we will, this is how it is. And she said, and how long will that be? Which kind of, is a little foreshadowing. Does she try to overtake his throne? Does she kind of lead Jamie, and what's his name to, get Cersei's daughter, Jamie's daughter back, Cersei's daughter back? Does she kind of help and aid in that and then cause, a little more problems? It's going to be very interesting to see how that turns out.
Let's take a moment here quick. Congratulations to everybody that just won the bank heist, a flawless bank heist. And we also got 24 people in the room. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody who's here. This is the Level Up Network, a reaction time on Game of Thrones Season 5, Episode 2. We do this every week. Don't forget to follow the show. If you're new, hit that heart button live from PlayStation. It's at the bottom of the screen. After that, we do flash to Meereen, with Daenerys and the Unsullied. They're getting closer to finding the murderer of the Unsullied. They take this guy, and they are putting him on trial.
Yeah, so essentially what happens is they find the guy that murdered the other Unsullied, and multiple people have a say at the table. She's actually
they have a council meeting.
They have a council meeting, and this is a democracy type situation where they're all giving their opinion. The a-hole, who I don't remember his name, but who is one of the richer people of the area that they're living in now.
Of Meereen,
Of Meereen, right. He wants a fair trial, and he wants him, he's like, you can't really do anything against him, just jail him. Everybody else is calling for his murder. And then her right-hand man, who I can never, ever, ever remember his name.
It was Jorah, but Jorah is no longer there anymore, and I wonder if they'll bring him back. But he was originally a part of the Kingsguard, this guy.
Right.
And he actually was a part of the Kingsguard when the Mad King was on the throne. So.
Right, but he actually was the one that counseled her the best, saying, you need to give him a trial, give him a trial, hear him out. You can't just give a, I guess, verdict right now without hearing the situation out.
Sure.
So that's kind of what, where that's left. And do we actually see anything more from that then? I thought we had another
No, they
flashback.
do decide that they're going to put him on trial, and that's what's kind of crazy is flashing to the end of the episode. If they were to just murder this guy, it would have been an even worse situation than when we eventually get to. But
Right.
we'll wait until the end of the episode for that. I want to say a quick thank you to Far Center, who says this is a great discussion. Really appreciate that, man. Also, Ghost and Alex, thanks for sticking in the room.
Awesome, man.
Let's move on to the next scene here.
Yeah, and it's like I said, my outline's going a little bit out of the way. I do like the way it's organized, but we'll go.
Well, after that, we go to Tyrion and God, what's his name?
Spider.
The Spider.
Yeah.
Varys. And they're still on their way to Marine to see Daenerys. Tyrion is still getting drunk out of his mind. He said that he's staying true to his word that he was going to get drunk on the way.
Right, and it's a funny scene. He actually almost walks out the door at one point, and he's like, "You can't. You're wanted by everybody. They're going to be looking for you. And this and that." And I don't think there was anything else in that dialogue except for the last line. And the last line leads into the next scene, which I kind of touched on a little bit, but it was very, very entertaining. He said, "Where is she gonna? If I disguise myself, what is she gonna do? Just murder every little person out there?" And it flashes immediately to the next scene of Cersei with 2 hired swords that come and bring her the body of a random midget.
Not even just the body; they bring just the head.
Oh,
as
just
far
the
as
head.
I can
That's
tell.
right, just the head of a random midget. And she's like, "No." He's like,
that's not him.
That's not him. But she's like, "I don't care how many they kill. I want him found." And it's intense.
That's messed up.
Dude, it's nuts. It's getting brutal with this whole situation.
Not a surprise.
No, not at all.
Cersei is brutal.
The way that they handled it was very, I hate to say entertaining, because here these guys are just going around murdering random midgets.
It is played for comedy a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. Which is kind of sadistic. I
guess so, right? But the show is kind of sadistic in a lot of ways. But I don't have a problem with it. I remember when we were watching it, you did chuckle when that happened.
Oh,
when you see the head just flop down on the table.
I was laughing. Don't get me wrong. Like, I love this type of stuff, but it's sadistic. I can see it in myself. I don't mind pointing it out.
Yeah.
It's a very sadistic type of humor. But it's just odd. It's just odd that that's what they're going with. But it was very entertaining.
After that, let's see what happens next. First, thank you to DMF for the Twitch follow. Really appreciate that, man. Then we get to the scene where Cersei is acting in the place of King Tommen.
Right.
She's on the council meeting, whatever you want to call it, and she's basically assigning roles to all the new members. We got the uncle, who is Tywin's brother, there for the funeral, and he is the guy that definitely can see through Cersei here.
Absolutely. And she, there's a bunch of different things she wants to do. She wants to go over there and cause an issue, and she appointed the really weird guy as was the head of not head of treasury. I can't remember what she appointed him.
I can't remember any of the names of these things.
No, but she essentially everybody that has an issue, she keeps going through and giving them promotions essentially.
Basically, yeah. It's like, oh, you have an issue? Well, here you go.
Right.
Here's a promotion. Shut your mouth.
And it's actually really entertaining. And then she finally gets to what's his name?
Uncle something. He's the brother of Tywin.
Oh, it says right here, Kavan, I think, Uncle Kavan. So she said something to him, saying, "I'm the acting, place of the king. He had other matters to attend to, this and that, and stuff." And he says, "I don't recognize your authority to dictate what is not your concern. You are the queen mother, nothing more."
Yeah. You better be careful, man. Cersei doesn't mess around.
That is awesome, and I love that. And it's good to see that somebody is standing up to her, because I mean everybody loathes her, but most of the people in the show either fear her or she gives them something, so they respect her for that alone. And so it's good to see somebody else standing up against it, and I'm glad to see that he doesn't like her. So that's actually pretty awesome.
After that, we get to a kind of nice scene, I guess you could say. At least it starts off nice. We see Stannis' daughter, who has the scales on her face, and she's with I think her name is Illy, or God, what's her name? It's like Illy or something like that.
Yeah.
The one that Sam seems to have a crush on.
Gilly.
It's Gilly, yeah.
Gilly.
But they're teaching each other how to read, or at least the daughter is teaching Gilly how to read.
Yep.
And they talk about the scales on the face and whatnot, and how this is not something that typically stops with just the face. It eventually typically covers the entire body, and they turn into like a lizard monster.
Right.
And especially if they're like inbred, like Gilly and her entire group was. So back
Absolutely.
when they were under whatever his name was, Castor, I think his name was, who was having sex with all his daughters, they would get this scale problem, and he would bring them out into the woods and basically just kill them, or leave them to die. I'm not sure exactly, but it kind of turned into a kind of messed up scene.
Yeah, it was really weird. But what's really upsetting about it is, she kind of gets insulted in a way.
The mother.
Stannis's wife, whatever she is, the queen or whatever, comes in and hurries them out. They leave kind of. Shireen, is that what her name is?
It might be, yeah.
Shireen is the daughter.
She's a little messed up in the head.
Shireen is the daughter, by the way. Yeah, we already know that. But she kind of kicks them out. And she said, I don't want you talking to her. She's bad news or something like that along those lines.
She's a wildling, and she doesn't want her to trust her.
Right, exactly. And the girl's like, it's not like she's going to turn against me. They're really nice. I was teaching her. And the mother's kind of like worried, I guess, that because she's a wildling, she's going to hold resentment for, her father killing Stannis. And it's already, you can already see the issues that are going to come up in this situation between the wildlings and Stannis and everything like that. And I wonder if there was a reason for the scene, for anything other than just sympathy for both of them, or if it's going to play into something where the queen has a bad thing against Gilly and a other wildling in general.
She's definitely somebody that could be a problem. She's just kind of twisted in the head from Stannis, but also from the daughter, and having so many failed pregnancies. And, a lot of their babies died. And when they finally did have a daughter that was born, it had the scales on her face. So she's just kind of a little twisted and messed up. And she definitely could be a problem potentially. After that, what do we get to? We get to Jon talking to Stannis. And this was kind of a surprising scene because it didn't go the way I went. Thought it would go. That's for sure. I thought that Stannis was going to have a problem with Jon for doing what he did.
I kind of called it out already.
Yeah. He respects him for the most part. He doesn't technically like what he did. He wanted the guy to die the way he was meant to die, but at the same time, he respects that Jon would stand up like that, would take mercy, he's a leader in a way.
And that's exactly what I called out. I said that's exactly what's going to happen. I knew it. And that's actually the one redeeming quality about Stannis, is that he's not brutal and he's not narcissistic and chauvinistic in the way that, if you don't do everything he wants you to do, he hates you. So, it's I guess a little bit more redeeming quality in him, because there's a lot of things that I don't like. But this is really great that he actually sees that in him. He said, he actually offers Jon, a position under him.
This was a big scene to say to Jon, I will allow you to become Jon Stark, not Jon Snow, and be the head of Winterfell. Something that we, as a viewer, when we hear that, we're like, oh my God, like Jon Snow is going to become Jon Stark. Like, this is what we wanted. And he turns it down. He says that he's not going to take it to Sam.
And he has honor. And that's what it really shows. And it actually gets played up in the next scene. Later on, because he's saying to Sam, he turned it down, and Sam's confused. He said, "I'm, a brother of the Night's Watch. I can't do that. I have to, I pledge my allegiance to the, Brotherhood, and I have to stand here and stand guard, essentially." Which was awesome.
Awesome, but disappointing at the same time.
But it's interesting to see where it's going to lead to, because I think let's just say it's in the same scene instead of worrying about jumping around. At the very least, let's just say it's in the same scene, so we get to see there's a vote being held. I think it is the same scene anyway.
This was the same scene, actually.
Yeah, so there's
because, as we know, Lord Commander Mormont, he was killed during the raid at Castor's.
Yep.
So for a while now, we haven't had a Lord Commander. So they are about to take a vote here, and there are two guys specifically that are the obvious choices. You got the one guy that hates Jon and has always hated Jon, but then you had another guy too who we don't know too much about, but it seemed like Jon actually respected him because he taps his cup on the table when they talk about his allegiance to the Brotherhood.
He's been there forever, since he was a kid essentially.
Yeah, he's been there the longest, I think, of anybody. But then we get to Sam, and you can see the look on his face and what he's thinking.
Right,
and he decides that he wants to throw Jon into the poll.
Yep, exactly. Last minute, he actually said, they're about to take the vote, and Sam stands up and he says, "Wait," and gives a great speech about Jon. Many things that they all laugh about, including where he insults the other guy that doesn't like Jon Snow, which is very entertaining. He said, saying about how the other guy, or the right-hand man to the other guy, cowered and hid with a wildling girl.
That was a great scene.
And it was so entertaining. Everybody else laughed at him. We all laughed when we were watching it in the room. I'm sure so many people did because it's great to see people, assholes get called out on their shit.
And it's especially nice to see from Sam, who is gradually becoming more and more confident and courageous.
Right. Yep, absolutely. And it's a great evolution for his character. But eventually, after his speech, which is a great speech, almost John seems honored, a little nervous, and a little upset too. I feel like he was a little let down because he didn't really want to do it exactly. But they put it to a vote, and it is tied neck and neck. Almost, it was funny because there's 3 pegs, and there's like 4 votes for the one guy. They had to slide these little these little trinkets, I guess, down on pegs.
Yeah, these little discs down on little rods. Yeah,
the different colors for different people, and there's like 4. For the one person, you have no idea who they're for. So I'm like, oh, did Jon Snow only get 4 votes? It's kind of funny. But no, it was Jon Snow and the jerk guy that I can't remember that was down to. It was tied neck and neck. And the what is his name? The old guy, the really
I can't think of his name, but he's actually a Targaryen.
Yeah,
he's the oldest Targaryen, and he's the only one left besides Daenerys, as far as we know.
He's kind of like the wise man of the whole Brotherhood. They kind of go to him, and he's always, you can tell he's always like Jon Snow. So, there's almost no doubt in your mind he's going to give him the vote, and he does. So Jon Snow is now the head of the Night's Watch.
It's surprising, for sure, because I think did you say it was a tie?
It was a tie.
It was a tie, and he was the one who decided to make that final
right.
vote. So that was really, really cool to see that happen. I didn't expect it, but this kind of softens the blow of Jon deciding not to become Jon Stark, because now he is Lord Commander of the Night's Watch.
I was actually hoping that it's a little disappointing actually to me, because I was hoping that there was going to be something else that happened. Maybe the other guy got chosen that doesn't like Jon Snow, and Jon Snow says, I don't want to deal with this, and ends up taking Stannis' offer anyway, and does it. And, even though it would cause a problem, I would have had no problem with it. And I think it would have added to the show in a different way. But this is going to change, Jon Snow. Like, this is confirmation. Jon Snow, or not confirmation, but almost another, certainty. Jon Snow will not leave the Night's Watch. He will not.
It seems that way.
So you're pretty much going to always see the Wall, which is good because there's always a reason now to come back to the Wall. But at the same time, it's like, Jon Snow, aren't you cold yet? Like, dude,
yeah, right.
There's like a desert scene that you want to go like warm up a bit. That fur coat is getting a little heavy.
I want to welcome a couple people. Exo Eric, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. And also Puss said that he's learned not to care about people on the show, and because whenever he does start to like a character or care about them, it seems like they die, an episode later. And I can understand that. R.R. Martin is very well known for killing off the people that we love. On this show, and I hope that Jon is not one of them. I hope Tyrion's not one of them, but you never know on Game of Thrones who's going to be next.
Yeah, maybe they'll have a wedding. We haven't had any weddings yet this season. What the hell, man?
Yeah, whenever there's a wedding, it's going to be bad news.
Yeah, it would be the best troll ever if this show goes like 6-7 seasons, and every time they have a wedding in each season, they have at least 1 or 2, and they kill somebody, and then all of a sudden they have a wedding towards the end, and nobody dies, and that's just how they end the series. Is that they end the wedding, nobody dies, and you're just like, that's the best ending ever.
What's interesting about the show is, if you haven't noticed, they kill a king every season.
Yeah, they do.
So season 1, it is Robert Baratheon. Season 2, it's Renly Baratheon. Season 3, it's Robb Stark. Season 4, it's Joffrey. And Season 5, it's Mance Rayder. So all 5 seasons, we've had a king be killed so far. So I think that's interesting that they've always done that.
Right.
But we did get to the final scene here. We saw, in a very comical way, we see Arya just kill a bird out of nowhere.
This is the final scene.
Slices this thing in like half. What was that?
This isn't the final scene.
Not the final scene, but the next scene, I should say.
Okay.
And then Arya does go back to seeing the guy from the tower at the very beginning.
Right. So, I mean, it was a little bit more than that because it was actually really entertaining. It was just that badass version of Arya that we've been missing. She's been on a journey, and she kills this bird, and these, she has it. And I guess what she's gonna. She just cuts the head of it. As it's sitting on the ground, and it's just really badass. Kristen's just like, she kind of like, cringed a little bit, but it was really funny. And then she's carrying it, and these punks just kind of, go up to her and try to see if they can, bully her around and, rob her, I guess. They like her sword. They want to take her sword, and she pulls it out on them. And then you see the random old guy that turned, like you said, you see him the one that turned her away, saying that there was nobody there of that name, just walked by, and his mere presence scared the living shit out of those jerks, and they run off. And she turns around, sees him, and starts following him back. She finally catches up to him at the front of the door, and stops him and confronts him and puts her hand on his shoulder and stuff like that. And I can't remember the exact thing that they say, but you end up finding out. He said, that's because there is nobody, by that name. Jagan Hagar is not a person, and he changes his face. Or no, he changed his face. That's right. He changed his face to the guy that you recognize. He said Jagan Hagar isn't a person. It's I guess a teaching or a following or a way of life.
An idea. I don't know exactly. He's the Dark Knight.
He was very vague about it, but it was really badass. And I mean, like I said, I knew that.
He's an awesome character. First of all, we've been waiting for him to come back since he left in season 3 because everybody loves him, and we talked about this during the show how we were so happy that they got the same actor back. Because they could have changed this easily. Since he doesn't have a face, they could have changed the actor, but they got him back. I'm so happy they did because he's a badass.
Right, it's great. And I don't think it would have worked if they got a new character because then you would have been like, who is that guy? Like, how does she recognize him? It doesn't make any sense. But it's really cool. And it's one of those things where, is she going to learn how to do that herself? Is that what she's going to be?
Is it something that you can learn? Who knows? I think it is.
No idea. But yeah, you were saying you think it's something that you learn. It's not something that you're born with or able to do or anything like that. But so she ends up going into the house of black and white, I guess I'm going to call it, and they close the doors, and that's it. So that's done with Arya for right now. That's the last we know of her.
But let me ask you this: why do you think that he decided to take her back? Once he turns her down, she stays overnight. She flips the coin. She says the names. Then she just goes around waiting and then kills a bird. And for some reason, Jaqen now thinks that she's worthy. What do you think happened?
I think it's one of those things where just testing her determination and, if she's given up. I think when he did that, I think he was always following her no matter what she did. He was always watching her. And when he saw that, when he had to get noticed, it was one of those things where I think the only reason he revealed himself there maybe was just out of a feeling of necessity, to scare the guys off. And I don't think he intended for her to see him then, or maybe he did. I'm not really sure. But I think he wanted to see that she was still interested, that she was still devoted to finding him. Because obviously, when you throw a priceless coin like that, it doesn't mean, it usually means that you've given up. So you want to see that she still had the determination for it. So I have no problem with that. I actually liked it. I'm excited to see. That's actually
I agree. I think it was
intriguing thing about this season too.
I think it was the determination as well. Her waiting, her just staying on the steps, saying names over and over again. I think, like you said, he was watching her, he was seeing all that, and that's what changed his mind. After that, I think we do get to kind of the final scene now.
This is the final scene. This is the most upsetting part of the show. And let's not skip ahead. So what ends up happening is the guy that murdered one of the Unsullieds is in jail. The other guy that wanted him to be murdered, didn't want him to have a child. One of the other Unsullied doesn't like this and actually confronts Grey Worm, I think, at one point about it, saying, how can you stand by for this, this and that. And he just goes down into the basement on his own and stabs him to death.
Yeah.
And kills him.
Kills the guy on trial.
Right. So before he had a trial. So, he's brought in front of Daenerys, who is so upset by this.
And she has a very tough decision to make now because, this guy, he did murder someone, but he was waiting trial. And the law says, that you're supposed to have a trial. So she says to him, like he says to her, you're the law. And he says, no, she says the law is the law.
Right. No, it is the law. He actually, before that, he said, I just did what you wanted to do and you couldn't. Yeah. So eventually, it's brought to a public setting.
Kind of like Braveheart style, where they do a public execution. And she wants to show, what the law means and that she's not going to show mercy to everybody. She thinks that she's doing the right thing here.
And let's be honest, she kind of is.
I think she is too. She's doing the right thing.
But it sucks because you have, and it's literally split half and half. On one side of the platform, you have the poor, the Unsullied, and the old slaves, and then the other side you have all the rich owners and everything, and they're both angry, or not actually angry. The one side's angry, wanting him to be killed. The rich owners, they want him to be murdered, and the other side is it's so upsetting because he goes, please, Misa, understand, please, Misa,
Yeah, it's sad
and they
because
all,
you see this guy and you are very like sympathetic to him and
yeah,
empathetic to him because he did what Khaleesi wanted to do in the first place, and he's
right.
just begging basically. He's begging her not
Right,
to do
and the
this.
rest of the crowd starts joining in and everything, and then it starts going to one of those scenes where it's like it's zooming out, and it's just like what's going to happen, and you get all tense, and all of a sudden you just hear the sword, and his head just hit. Oh my god! And it was so upsetting because you didn't want that to happen. You could tell she didn't. She's so upset by this, and everybody is silent, and then all of a sudden the entire crowd just starts hissing, and you just hear,
Yeah, that's
the whole
exactly what
crowd.
Arcade said. He's in the chat room. Arcade 1982. He says Khaleesi gets booed and hissed.
Yeah, and she didn't even get booed. She just got hissed at.
Yeah, it was creepy.
And it was very creepy. And it's upsetting because she was trying to, I mean, she's trying to set an example, but she cares way more about the people that she just upset than the owners. She doesn't give a shit about them. Let's be realistic. She couldn't care less about them, really. But she has to because she has to be fair. And this starts a fight. This starts a big battle. They're not only going after her, but they're the two sides are now fighting against each other. But even the Unsullied and the slaves are kind of, or not. I don't even know what to call them anymore. The freed people
Yeah.
are kind of going after her. The soldiers had to put their shields up in a very Spartan like formation, to protect her from things being thrown at her, like rocks and stuff. And she gets, saved and anything like that. And now she has two sides that are really not happy with her. The owners and the masters, never liked her. And then on the other side, you have the people who she always helped who dislike her for that as well.
Yeah,
So it's going
she's
to
in a bad situation, and thank God she has the Unsullied, who are amazing soldiers, and they're able to protect her through this and get her out alive.
Right.
But she's losing this city
right,
pretty
and
quickly.
it's a little upsetting because she goes to her room. You can tell that she's upset because it goes to nighttime, and she tells everybody to leave her be in her room. She doesn't want to see anyone, and it's understandable. Yeah, she's very upset. She's distraught by what just happened. She sees everything she once stood for changing. She wanted to be the one who freed everyone, not the one who had to make decisions about punishment. And she goes outside for some fresh air.
Yeah.
This was a very good redeeming ending for the episode. Instead of ending it on a sour note like they so often do, suddenly you just hear a kind of rustling. I don't know how else to say it, like a giant winged Santa Claus on your roof.
A giant winged Santa Claus. Exactly. Let's go with that.
And you turn around, and it's not Santa Claus. Instead, it's a giant dragon. Her dragon has come back to her finally after multiple episodes of being missing and picking up random children, killing them, and then dropping them on their doorstep like a bad cat. He has come back to her, and she's excited and she's happy, and this is finally a dragon that does not hate her or resent her for locking him up.
Yeah, it was scary at the beginning because we are used to our dragons being a problem, and this one has been a problem. It went out on its own, but it hasn't been held in captivity like the other ones. So in this scene, it's getting closer and closer to her, and you're like, okay, is this going to be okay? Is it going to bite her? Is it going to blow fire at her? But it seems like this one still does just look at her as a mother.
Right, it's like an old teenager, like, hey, Mom, just wanted to know I'm alive. All right, see ya. And then just flies off, and you're just like, damn it, no, stay still for like 5 freaking seconds. And it's a little annoying, frustrating, but at least it's there. And it's kind of, I feel like they're nodding you towards, like I already know, like not know some things, but I've seen some, previews. Previews ruin it for everybody. But I've seen some clips and previews that let me know different things about the show. But it's kind of like reminding you the dragons are still a playable object in this series. And for Daenerys in general. The only thing I'm not sure of is how many dragons are playable. And how many are going to be either useless, go away, or used against her even, unfortunately. So it's very interesting to see where this is going to go for the rest of season 5 or possibly season 6 it might play into later on. But I'm going to ask you, how long do you think it's going to be before we see this dragon again? Let's say we see Daenerys in the next episode. Do you think we'll see her?
No, I think that they teased the dragon because they wanted us to let us know the dragon is still around. It's not going anywhere. And they want to make sure that we don't forget about that. But to have that little tease, I feel like they're probably going to wait several episodes now before they bring it back with a big moment once again, where it's going to stick around for good. It might be 3 episodes, it might be 4, probably like a half season marker, something like that. But I'm happy that that we'll be getting more dragons and that there's still hope for her dragons, because recently all we've been seeing is her dragons in captivity, hating her, blowing fire at her, and it's discouraging because it's like
Right.
Khaleesi is this really strong character that we want to potentially be a great ruler, but lately she hasn't been that. She's not the mother of dragons. She's losing Marine. It's like we need to get some cool stuff from her.
And I feel like it's going to be one of those typical, like, we're playing her down, and it's going to be the underdog story where she comes up from being knocked down. I get knocked down, and I get up again. That one of those types of things. Yes, that just happened. You're welcome.
Yeah.
But I think that's what it's really setting up to be. I have no worry for it. I'm just interested and intrigued to see where it goes. I did see in the next week's preview, though, I believe I saw it. I think we're going to see a little more of Reek. Next episode.
We will be getting Reek back. I can't even remember what his real name anymore. I guess, which is kind of the point, right? It's like now he's just Reek, which is kind of depressing.
Right.
But we'll be getting more of him. I'm not sure what else. Arcade said that Khaleesi is starting to learn the pressures of being a ruler. Super McNasty is here. Welcome to you, man. Arcade, is Tyrion going to be a dragon rider? That would be crazy. I mean, he's not a Targaryen as far as we know.
Awesome.
It would be awesome to see midget riding a dragon.
Dude, how many times did you actually think you were going to say that and be serious about it?
Yeah, I should say a little person. I'm sorry. A dwarf, a little person, I don't know. But
midget riding dragon. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, that would be pretty awesome. There are like some theories online on who are Targaryens and who aren't. Some people do think that Tyrion is a Targaryen, actually.
I don't want to play into it, just because I honestly don't want to know too much. I don't like.
Yeah, I agree.
Like I said, I don't like even seeing previews sometimes. I want to, and the little kid in me does anyway, like peeking at my Christmas presents. But I really, honestly don't. Like, all the other episodes are online, and I don't want to touch them. I really don't. I want to be excited each week because we only have now. I mean, even though we did it late, we now only have 2 more days till the next episode, and I'm very excited for it. I think it's going to be a pretty good episode. What about you?
I really like this episode. First of all, I want to say I like this a lot better than Premiere. I just felt like that's kind of the case with Game of Thrones anymore. Is the premieres are just a reintroduction of the characters to find out where they're all at. We got that. We're back on track now. We're gonna get all exciting stuff in the future. I think this is gonna be. I don't know if this season has any huge moments like the death of Joffrey or the Red Wedding. I'm not sure if we're gonna get anything like that on that scale.
Okay.
But I think it'll kind of be like the first season where it's just solid the whole way through. And as I've said before, I think the first season is still the best season. And I think it was just consistent. I like the pacing. I like the focus. And I have a feeling this season is going to kind of be like that one.
Hopefully. I mean, first season wasn't my favorite, but I agree it was a very good, solid season. The reason that a lot of people like it because it didn't have highs and lows. It just stayed consistent all the way through. So I don't know. I'm actually thinking we're going to get a little bit more intrigue. It might not be that we get the normal highs and lows like King Joffrey situation, but we might get like something that's setting up for something else.
Sure.
And that's actually just as exciting because we're getting we're getting closer to the end of the series. Let's be realistic. I only see maybe 3 more seasons at most coming out of this, an 8-season show. I can't see any more than that. So we're definitely getting closer. So, no, I'm excited for the rest of this. But this episode definitely was better than the first, so I enjoyed it.
Let's wrap up. Thank you so much. We have 35 people in the room. We got a few on PC as well, watching the Level Up Network, which is the better quality stream, by the way, guys. But if you're watching on the Level Up Show on PS4, please follow. Now 38 people in the room. Thank you so much. This is the Level Up Network. I'm Andrew, and this is Mike, and we're talking Game of Thrones Season 5, Episode 2. We do this every week, reaction times, discussing our favorite TV shows. So follow us right now, live from PlayStation. All you got to do is hit that heart button in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. Your name will pop up. We'll shout you out. We're very active on Twitter. YouTube was where we archive all this stuff. If you miss it, definitely go to youtube.com/The Level Up Show to subscribe and check those out. We also have a t-shirt shop at thelevelupshow.spreadshirt.com. And finally, the best way to support the network is on Patreon. There's a whole bunch of rewards you can get. Go to patreon.com/The Level Up Network. Be like the 20 other patrons we have, donating over $200 every month to our network, making it better. That's what we're doing. We're putting it all back into it, trying to make this the best show we possibly can do. So I guess that's going to wrap us up. Mike, as always, man, thanks for joining me.
Absolutely. Every week.
Every week, exactly. And Daredevil, probably around Monday, maybe we'll do episodes, I don't know, maybe like 5 through 9 or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, we need to finish that up because everybody's already done. You're taking your sweet time.
If I
Oh,
finish
and
a few more episodes, maybe we'll do even more than.
by the way, me, it's me. I am not a midget. Drew just said we don't want to call people midgets, I think.
No,
So,
but it was an endearing word. I say. I
yes.
think it's endearing. Also, thank you to some follows from Lady Trexie, D Split, DMF, Bunny Bun, and Racer. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for following the show. Until next time, guys, we'll be here on Sunday, of course, with the Level Up Show, episode 71. It's a gaming dedicated talk show. We have the full cast here. Mike will be here. I'll be here. My wife, Kristen, and also Dean. Check it out at 10 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday. Until then, take care. And as always, level up
And stay classy.
and stay classy. See you, Mike.
Later.